frozen there, but it's frozen on here. Okay, do me a favor, zoom that in. Okay, I think we're live, eh? That looks pretty, yeah, as good as I'm ever going to look. I'm going to sit here, yeah, there we go. Just tilt it. Give it up for Owen the intern, if anybody's actually on the live stream here. Okay, let's just dive into this here. Let me fix my hair, the three of them that are, in fact, remaining. And let's do this. So, hi, Dan Kingerski, Pittsburgh Hockey Now, National Hockey Now, Canada Hockey Now, proprietor of Pittsburgh Hockey Now, Philadelphia Hockey Now, New York Islanders Hockey Now, Boston Hockey Now, Florida Hockey Now, Detroit Hockey Now, Colorado Hockey Now. Did I forget Boston? Maybe I did. Colorado Hockey Now, Vegas Hockey Now, San Jose Hockey Now, Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, Montreal. I think that's everybody. And the little surprise coming, I can't tell you yet because it is a technical nightmare. We actually have absorbed a big name that you will very much enjoy. Howdy, people. How's the sound? I can see a couple of you jumping on. Let me share this just real quick here before we dive into the Penguins and their 1-0-1 start, 3 of 4 points in Florida. Jeff Carter's 400th goal. Mike Sullivan, I think, coaching his butt off. We also have the potential. Is it 633 games? I was a little bit unsure of the exact sellout number for the Penguins. It's not really like the day-to-day number isn't so much a big deal to me as the streak, I think, should be a big deal to everybody. So we're going to talk about that. I surely made my feelings known on Pittsburgh. Oh, you know what? Hang on. There I am. You got a good look at Owen's shoes. Yeah, Owen, we got to get you some shoes, brother. Oh, yeah. I know you're from Oil City. I know you're an intern, but we're going to go buy you some kicks. Are you a Jordan's guy? No? Yeah, well, that's obvious. Listen to me picking on interns. I should be ashamed of myself. Okay, so do me a favor, as always, for those of you who are brand new to this little shindig, you just fire away on the chats, and I chat with you. I do need to share this on the tweet box and the Facebook thing here. Oh boy, it's captured a fantastic picture of it, let me tell you. Okay, that should just about do it. Okay. Do me a favor, Owen, I want you to pull that camera back just about 6 inches. That's probably a little bit more. Okay, right about there. Okay, so we are here in the brand new studios of Pittsburgh Hockey Now. We are high above both Wood Street, First Avenue, and Smithfield. I always get Stanwix and Smithfield mixed up. Oh, can barely hear me. Okay. Matt loves the Most High. How about now? Can you hear? You know what? It does look a little bit. How about that? Did that help any? I bet you this helps too. I bet you that helps a lot. Yeah, this microphone is uber sensitive. So let's do that. Okay, Medina. Hey, how are you? Can you hear me now? I bet you can because my sound levels are really high now. Oh, let's try a little bit more. Yep, sounds like it did. Okay, better. All right, is it good though? Because listen, I'm a radio guy, and sound is everything to me. I think we have to do a little bit more work, but we're just going to get through the live chat today. Wonder if that does anything. I should give you a little bit of a tour of the studio, but we'll do that a little bit later. Owen, how does it sound? Is it okay? Is it good? It's good now. Okay. All right, so we're going to get through the Penguins' their little road trip through Florida. Evgeny Malkin was injured, not sunburned. The Penguins took 3 of 4 points. Owen, who's like, how old are you, 21? You don't remember you're too young for the Evgeny Malkin sunburn incident, aren't you? Yeah. See, what happened was, in their heyday, when Crosby and Malkin were kids with the Penguins, they had a road trip in Florida, of course, and the boys had a little fun down in South Florida. Well, Malkin didn't have any sunscreen on. He was so sunburned he couldn't play the next day. He shows up, he's a lobster. And as I remember, the coaching staff were pretty upset in the moment. I think they laughed about it later. After you win a Stanley Cup, you can laugh about it. But in the moment, they weren't real happy. It would have been like November, December, probably. I mean, good Lord, I can't remember what I did a week ago, and you're asking me about. Here's the important points. Evgeny Malkin, sunburn, couldn't play, anger, funny now. Okay, so Sullivan, who is in fact coaching his. I asked him about it before the Penguins departed for Florida, and I thought he gave. You can always tell when Sullivan is giving you. He has his canned answers, and he rarely, deviates from what he wants to say, but his pace and his articulation, his volume change when he's really telling you what he believes as well. And I asked him if he's having more fun with this, this team that's essentially wide open. I mean, look, you've got Brian Boyle filling a vacant fourth line center. You've got Drew O'Connor and Sam Lafferty and Anthony Angelo fighting for spots. P.O. Joseph and Mark Friedman and Chad Ruedel fighting for spots, and even the lines completely unsettled in this training camp, which is very different from any Mike Sullivan camp that has preceded it. I mean, we've known 2017, 2018. You knew Jake Gensel was going to go with Sidney Crosby. You knew Malkin was going to get the next winger. You knew Brian Rust was a fourth-line player until a couple of years ago. So Sullivan really, he conveyed and he expressed, I think, genuinely how much he is, in fact, enjoying getting on the ice with the guys, seeing progress from a lot of the young guys. I think they have done a world of good with Drew O'Connor. I think they're inching along with P.O. Joseph. I think they're going to do a lot with Radim Zohorna. I'm actually telling you he's kind of not close to being ready. There's some real details in his game that he has to work on down the road. Sounds good?
But yeah, they're cutting in and out is what they're saying in the chat. And listening, it sounds fine, and then a couple of seconds will just feel like you can't hear a couple of words.
Okay, let me turn it down, actually. I think it might be over-modulating. Okay, check. One, I need to be in the yellow, not the red. I cranked it up just to make sure. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, no, hey, it's Walt Flanagan. No, it unfortunately is not you. It's me. This is literally we set up the studio about 45 minutes ago here in the plush Pittsburgh Hockey Now offices downtown Pittsburgh. In fact, if I do this, you can see downtown. You can see the Fort Pitt Bridge. But you really can't see me. So there's the view from my desk. Pretty cool, huh? Never fails, does it? Can't get the blinds down. Okay, so is that better, Owen? Is that more in the proper range? Okay, good deal. Anywho, so don't forget, kids. I see a bunch of regulars. Fire away, and we'll get to it. I think the one thing we probably should lead off talking about, and I forgot to add the pictures here, is let's add a few more here. See, it's been a while. It's been a long time since you and I talked. I mean, since we last talked, I stumbled across this little gem on a motorcycle ride. They're looking at a picture of a wooden Bigfoot statue from Marionville, PA. So it was north on 66, and I'm just riding. I'm actually kind of taking a turn out of Oil City. You should know where you're from Oil City. You know where Marionville's at. Good Lord, yeah. I like to stop at Kelly's, like the little Irish bar, or at least has or the Shamrock, whatever it's called. I stopped in there. This is, I guess, about a month ago. Would have been on a Friday afternoon. And ESPN was doing the Ocho thing. They had rototiller ESPN. So there's me and two old guys watching rototiller racing on ESPN. You know, they've got the big tall boys of Pabst, and I'm just loving life. And they're down in the middle of Alabama. And I'm not making fun of Alabama. I'm about to. So the children's division comes up. And let me tell you, sugar was not a problem in their diet. These kids could handle a rototiller and a few candy bars. They actually had a play-by-play guy, and the play-by-play goes, "Oh, the little one's coming up next." And the gruff old guy turns to us two and goes, "They ain't so little." And that was my day. I think I did a spit take. Whatever I was drinking. It was certainly not Bud Light, Jeff Carter. No. Okay, so we were talking about Redeems of Horna before I went on a tangent and got a little bit sidetracked. I know, I see Twitter. I know a lot of the leading Twitter voices in the Penguins fan base were like, Redeems of Horna! I have to tell you, there are some very important and crucial details. So let me explain a little bit here. And I kind of hope this is one of the reasons you come to talk hockey with me, is I'm going to give you a little bit of information that others aren't or don't have, or, you might not agree with it, you may not like it, but I promise you it's the truth. So Horna still isn't hard to play against in a lot of the battle areas, between the dots especially. The Penguins coaches are pushing, they're working on him to become a bit more of a force. I mean, the kid's what, 6? I'm pretty sure he's at least 6'6". I think he's actually 6'7". He's just tall. And 225 pounds, probably. I think he was 220 in the Czech league. He's got to be a little bit more now. And so they're encouraging him. They're pushing him to add a little bit of, if I say toughness, I think a lot of you will misunderstand. They want him to fight, or they want him to be a grinder or a plugger. And that's not quite it. But they want him to use those gigantic shoulders to muscle in, create some open space. They want him to be able to not get pushed out of those battle areas. He's fast, you can see that. He's got silky mitts, you can see that. But until the men, until the high-level professionals are no longer able to remove him from the game in the battle areas, along the walls, in the dots, until that happens, he's not going to be an NHL guy. And so I know you're all mad that he got sent down, but that's the honest-to-God reason. It's just a work in progress. Cycling back to the very beginning of this conversation, Mike Sullivan, he and J.D. Forrest, I think you're going to have a very long and healthy relationship. Talking with Forrest, he sounds just like Sullivan. I mean, he's a solid 6 inches shorter than Mike, but they look alike. They sound alike. They say the same things. They phrase everything as an opportunity. They phrase everything as he's at his best when he does this, as opposed to he's not doing this. They say he's at his best when he's doing that. And I think that's I think why Sullivan and Forrest down in Wilkes-Barre are going to have a great relationship, and they're going to get the best out of a few guys. I know you're excited about a lot of folks down there, but there's really only a couple or a few NHL potentials. Nathan Legare, or Legare. They told me the French pronunciation, and I just booger it up every time. So I like Legare. P.O. Joseph. I'm going to tell you something. I do not yet see an NHL player in Sam Poulin. I don't see it. Legare is going to zoom past him if the Penguins are being honest with themselves. A first-round pick gets every benefit of the doubt, right? Poulin is going to get more benefits of the doubt than Valtteri Puustinen, who was a 7th-round pick. And that's just because it's like found money, a 7th-round pick. Is he going to make it? He wasn't supposed to. Whereas Poulin, if he's not making it, you're like, what did we do wrong? We have to fix him so we don't look stupid. There's a little bit of an emotional investment, more so anyway, into a first-round pick. Look, Bjorkquist, Hollander, Puustinen, Poulin, none of them showed me that they are within a mile of the NHL. Sure, they can be a little tough on the wall. They can be a little bit physical or aggressive at times, but all 4 of them lacked one fundamental thing that the NHL game, especially a Mike Sullivan NHL team, requires, and that's a really good first step. That's getting to that puck coming around the wall. That's taking that, being quick enough to get in the way on the forecheck, or being quick enough to poke a puck loose, or just being that far ahead. Legare actually showed that in the preseason. I mean, he picked off the D-to-D pass, that quick little burst of speed to get in that lane when the Buffalo Sabres didn't think he was anywhere near there. Then you add Legare's wrist shot, and I'm going to tell you something. His attitude is kind of fun. He has this, he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, where he doesn't let the fact that he's playing against NHL players bother him, whereas I've always felt that Poulin does take into account he's playing NHL players. I'm not supposed to be this good. I'm not supposed to challenge these guys, whereas Legare doesn't care. He's the guy that shows up at the party wearing the flashy clothes and gets loud. Poulin could learn from that. I know they're good friends. So how's the sound now? Are we modulated properly? Is everything good? All right, let me get to Jacob. Now that he's down in Wilkes-Barre, will they turn Ricola into a roster player and or valuable trade asset? Jacob, I, for the life of me, don't necessarily understand their treatment of Ricola. He makes mistakes. But unlike other players, as youngsters who got to play through them, Ricola didn't. And he never, by the time he was ready to adjust, we're talking second or third year, COVID hits, and talk about just a star-crossed North American career. Credit to him for sticking it out. I think Emil Larmy more or less said, I'm out of here. This ain't for me. I'm not riding the bus in Wheeling or living in Wilkes-Barre. I'm going to head back to Finland, drive my Porsches. He's got a pretty cool Porsche, by the way, does Emil Larmy, the goalie. Credit to Ricola for sticking it out. Of course, $1 million a year would help me stick it out, too. I'd put up with a whole lot for $1 million. I don't know. Ricola reminds me a lot of Oliver Killington in Calgary. A kid who, I think Killington is 25 this year, maybe 24. Just been on the Calgary roster for 3 or 4 years as the 7th defenseman. What was it? What day did we launch Calgary Hockey Now? Tuesday. So on Monday at Flames practice, Daryl Sutter puts Killington on the wing of the fourth line. The fan base went bananas. I see a lot of that in Ricola, where coaches don't want to give that extended playing time, and they just can't. But they know the player is too good to just cast off. So you're kind of always in that push-pull. If I'm Ricola, would I re-sign with the Penguins? Probably not. I would probably, you pick up the phone, you say, trade me right now, and hang up the phone. Slapshot reference if you didn't get it. When can we expect the first trade? Well, given Ron Hextall's very patient stances, I chuckle. In his introductory press conference, Ron Hextall was like, hey, listen, I'm not a one-trick pony. But the reality is, if you look at Hextall, and I don't mean this as a criticism, I'm merely stating fact here, he has created the inner circle that he wanted. Hextall, Chris Pryor, Brett Hextall, his son, and Pryor's son, Brian Burke. There's probably 5 or 6 people, and Sam Ventura is gone. Who was the Penguins' European guy? I'm forgetting his name. Held some sway in the organization. He left in June, and a few of the scouts have gone a different direction. Obviously, all of the assistant GMs. Who am I thinking of? Alvin is still here. Who did Hextall? And anyway, you get what I'm saying. So Hextall has kind of recreated his inner circle here, his inner sanctum. I don't necessarily know that we're going to see anything different from Hextall, like a big splashy trade in the first half of the season. That's not how he rolls. So what are you going to do, right? First trade is probably January, maybe leading up to the Olympic break. They want to get somebody in, play a few games, because after the Olympic break, it's the demon drop. The season is like every other day, boom, 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 until the end of April. In fact, November, if you look at November's schedule too, November they play 14 games to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, it's just an absolutely brutal schedule. I was looking kind of at my day planners, and I'm like, oh, game. I will not be living life. That's for sure. Okay. When do we see Pojo get into the lineup with Matheson out and Friedman playing like he is? I don't think you see Pierre-Olivier Joseph in the lineup. Oh, that's Owen. Intern sitting 10 feet from me. I don't think we see P.O. unless somebody else gets hurt. Friedman is playing really well. I think he is seizing his opportunity. He played really well in the first game. It's hard to judge anything from Thursday night. That wasn't a hockey game. That was just a special teams practice. Here, you take one, we'll take one, you take one. Hey, we're playing 5-on-5. Someone do something stupid. Oh, good. Bob shot the puck in the crowd. Good job. And we're right back to the power play. I did not enjoy watching the second. I loved the first period, if you're asking. I thought a few players had very good first periods. But I like the way Friedman jumps in. He's very much Mike Matheson. He's got a little bit of snarl to his game, although the spearing incident, I think, has set him back a little bit on his heels. He's not being as physically aggressive as he was last season when he decided to take on his entire former team, the Philadelphia Flyers, and they bounced him around pretty good. And who got suspended, like in the next to the last game last season for just decking Friedman? Which of the Flyers? Somebody crushed him like a second after the puck was gone. He was injured in his first game. Nolan Patrick boarded him, and then Friedman went at Patrick, and Patrick just stood his ground, and Ghost, that's right. Yeah, the Ghost got the suspension for interference. I like Friedman a lot. We'll see. A guy who can play both sides is incredibly valuable as a depth defenseman. A guy who can play in the NHL is even more valuable, right? Oh, yeah, you're going to ask who would come up first. Actually, if you want I'm telling you Legare is better. However, who gets to the NHL first? I'm going to bet Poulin because of his first-round pedigree. Poulin plays he's been playing a very simple, vanilla, no mistakes, conservative sort of game. I think that gets more trust from the coaches. You know, a guy who can't hurt you sometimes is more attractive than a guy who can help you. Welcome to professional sports. So, Medina, I'm going to say that Poulin reaches the NHL first. I disagree with it, but so it is. Chance of Pens taking the route of the Lightning and keeping Malkin on IR until after the deadline. Well, the cap still matters even after the deadline. The cap doesn't go away until game 1 of the playoffs. It's a little bit of an interesting dichotomy here. I hate talking about the CBA because A, it's just convoluted. I'm going to screw something up. B, there's always somebody who goes, well, actually, Rule Point 8-10.12, Section A says, and I'm like, well, okay, you're right. When Malkin comes back, his full salary counts on the Penguins' salary cap, $9.5 million. So they have to have that much space when Malkin comes back. They do not have to have that much space if they were to acquire a player after the trade at the trade deadline who made 9.5. Does that make sense? Because of the prorated portion, they wouldn't have to have the full 9.5 million available. We cool? So, yes, the Penguins, I've been wondering that myself. It's funny to joke about, but let's be honest here. None of us know exactly what Malkin had done to his knee. He'll probably tell us when he comes back. I mean, let's be honest. You look at the picture he posted on the exercise bike that I blew up and put in the story a couple of weeks ago. There were 3 pretty good scars up top, on the side, and kind of down at 4 o'clock. They got in there. They had to do some work on Evgeny Malkin's knee. A couple medical professionals had some differing opinions. Oh, they repaired this, or oh, they reconstructed that, or I don't know. But I know 3 good scars, kind of around the knee, tells you that it was serious business for Malkin. And so, I don't know. Ron Hextall said 2 months. That puts us into December. You suffer a setback. You're into later January, February. Now, the season does go because of the Olympic break, and that actually might screw things up for your great plan to get that $9.5 million of cap space, because it elongates the regular season by almost a full month. We go to the end of April this year instead of instead of the first week or two in April. Why is Sam Lafferty still playing over guys like DOC and Zohorna? Well, I can tell you why he's playing over Zohorna. Actually, I know why he's in the lineup too, because he can play right wing, whereas O'Connor is a center left guy. Lafferty is the right guy. Look, I thought Lafferty was really good against Tampa Bay. I thought Boyle, and O'Connor were solid enough. You're not asking for goals. Oh, wait, they scored one. But, Lafferty and Boyle played just a few minutes last night, Thursday night. So I can't tell you necessarily that they were good or bad. They were kind of bad in the couple shifts that they were on the ice in the second period at 5-on-5. Tampa scored a goal. I've got no trade rumors for you, except since you've stuck it out this long. How long are we going? Oh, this is 31 minutes in. Here you go. I tweeted this last night right before the game, and I kind of watered it down. There is a flurry of activity and optimism around Jack Eichel over the last couple or few days. I have to be very careful how I say this, because I know it can be misconstrued a great deal, but the situation was wearing on him. We heard it was getting pretty rough, a little bit dark for the Buffalo Sabres, well, the former Buffalo Sabres captain. In the last few days, things are picking up. His spirits are up. He's getting optimistic. There's a little bit of a buzz starting. We heard one team, and then that was shot down. We heard a second team, and that was tepidly shot down. We think, does the Hockey Now family, that the Kings have circled back to kick a tire or two. We're wondering about the Detroit Red Wings. We've got two very different sources on the Red Wings. One said yes. One said no, that happened a couple months ago. They inquired, they said hell no, and that was the end of it. This is what happens when you're a reporter, right? Who do you believe? You get two very different stories. So obviously you haven't seen any written story because we don't know what to believe. But there's your little NHL trade rumor for the day. Jack Eichel, there is a little bit of a whir, so to speak, of activity. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, let's go with that guy. Jeff Carter, goal number 400 on Thursday night. One of the weakest goals he's probably ever scored. A pass for Brian Rust. I have no idea what Ekblad was doing. Ekblad, absolutely. That was a brain cramp there. That's like catching a punt on the 2-yard line. You just don't put your stick there because nothing good happens when you do that. And for Florida, nothing good did happen. For the Penguins, yeah, certainly something good did. I don't know if you saw the story on Pittsburgh Hockey Now that, in fact, I went back and found Jeff Carter's first goal. That took me over an hour of searching. And in fact, I didn't really find a specific clip. It was part of a larger Sportsnet clip where I found his goal. They were talking about the super rookies, Mike Richards and Jeff Carter. 2006, Philadelphia. Doesn't that make you feel old? Think back to 2006. Crosby was a rookie. Mario was retiring. Carter, Richards, Ovechkin. Nick Backstrom was just a kid in Sweden. In fact, I don't think Nick Backstrom was drafted in 2006. So that 05-06 season, Nick Backstrom wasn't even a Capitals product yet. Jordan Stahl wasn't even a Penguins prospect, and Jonathan Taves wasn't passed over by the Penguins yet. And nor was Phil Kessel. You know you're old when you can think back to the story you wrote on the day of. And I would have been... No, I guess I wasn't with NHL Home Ice yet, but I was with another fledgling wannabe national outlet where I was doing a national radio show, and I'm not going to give them the ink because I'm just not giving them the press to tell you who I was with. But I remember covering the draft. We actually did a show live on the floor in '06, and I just remember saying, I kind of torched the hockey establishment for passing over Phil Kessel. It's funny how we zigged and zagged. I criticized the hockey establishment for passing Phil Kessel in '06 when he dropped to, was it number 5 to the Boston Bruins. When the Penguins acquired him, I was telling everybody, you're going to love this guy. Watch out. Here go the Penguins. And the Penguins fan base that summer, if you remember, July 1st, go back, you look at my Twitter feed. I was getting crushed on I think it was on 93.7, The Fan at that point. Yeah, I certainly was. I was getting crushed on the air, and I'm getting crushed on Twitter. God, Ken Gursky, you think you're a hockey guy? Kessel's, he's terrible. Well, 6 months later, I'm bagging Kessel. You're loving Kessel. Now you love Kessel, and I still bag Phil Kessel. We're never going to be on the same page. Speaking of which, Jack Johnson's goal over Marc-Andre Fleury in Game 1. Come on. Johnson is 3 of 5 career in shootout attempts. Guy knows how to do a breakaway. Look at Owen's like, seriously? Go ahead, look it up. Is it 3 of 5 or 4 of 6? The guy is money on a breakaway, in a shootout. I mean, he raced in on Fleury and just roofed one. And I was watching that. That was what? The game started at 10 o'clock, so I was having dinner probably at 10 after working since 5 a.m. And I was with, my little spot has, some Penguins fans, and we're all just like little regulars. And when Johnson scored over Fleury, I think I let out the most evil cackle of my life. While they groaned, I was a kid in a candy store because I took so much flack for defending Jack Johnson. Do we know any former Penguins that were playing for Florida last night that Gensel might have learned to score his goal from? Oh, you know what? That's a good point, Jacob. I was thinking that was more like a Sidney Crosby goal that Jake scored from behind the goal line. But I know what goal you're referencing. The Stanley Cup winning goal of 2017 when Hornqvist used the backside of Pekka Rinne. And I lost my Swedish wooden watch. Oh, that night was, you guys don't remember. I was a wanted man in Nashville, and not in a good way. That was when I didn't think much of it, and I kind of wrote a story that they were pumping in crowd noise to Nashville. Went outside and took a picture of the speakers that was playing the crowd noise, so I kind of had proof. And the radio technician kind of jokingly told me what they were doing, and he didn't think anything of it. I didn't think anything of it until I put it in the bottom of a story. And within hours, one giant Twitter, we'll call him a personality. He's one of those people who looks for someone to get the pitchforks and have a good old-fashioned beatdown. He found it, blew it up. Wyshynski found it, blew it up. And by 11 o'clock that night, I was on Nashville's TV stations. Like, my picture, Owen. This is why you have to be careful. This was a learning experience for me. I'd never do that again, probably, because it's just not worth it. But they put my picture beside a quote from the story, and then they put my Twitter handle right beneath it on the 11 o'clock news as their lead story. NBC Nashville did this to me. So for 3, 4, 5 days, I couldn't use Twitter. Those SEC fans, they know how to get mean. And I was getting death threats. My bank account was hacked. I literally, Matt Geitka, you probably know Matt, had to kind of walk around with Nashville, and other media members who were, friendly and friends made sure to kind of put me in the middle of a circle when we went out, or walked to the arena from the hotel, just in case Bubba wanted to take a little poke at me, because people were insanely angry at this. What was the point of the story? There was a point to this. I'm getting old. I do that. I just wander off on a tangent. Oh, the Patrick Hornquist. Yeah, so I'm covering that game. I'm in the, I'm writing away, and Hornquist scores. I was so happy. Not because the Penguins were about to win the Stanley Cup, because it was all over. I grabbed my bag, I jumped up. I bought one of those wooden watches from Switzerland. A couple of the reporters were from Sweden. They're like, oh, this is brand new. It's so great. So I bought one. Had it shipped in. It got there in time for Game 6. It goes flying off. My keys fly out of my bag. I go running down to the locker room to do that. 1 o'clock in the morning, they're shooing all the media people out of the media room. The season's done. The NHL PR people are like, oh, thank God we don't have to deal with you people anymore. And I look in my bag and realize I have no car keys and my watch is gone. So we run the mile to my car to make sure I didn't leave everything in the car. No. We come running back to the arena, get the security guards to let us in. The NHL PR people look at us with the most evil, I hate you look. And we're like, we don't know. So we're racing around the arena, retracing all the steps, trying to find my car keys so I can get the hell out of Nashville. This is like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning at this point. This is the glorious life you lead as a sports writer, Owen. This is the glorious life you are signing up for. We found them like 3-4 seats down, my press box seat, under some garbage. Never did find the watch. Never did buy another one either. But I got my car keys, and I just drove. Okay. Are you all bored yet? Did I bore the pants off of you with that self-indulgent tripe? Okay, the season is young. Aaron asks, but the Penguins are typical chronic injuries, a product of age and bad luck, or just time for a new strength and conditioning coach? If this were a couple years and they had a new guy, I would say maybe look at that. But this Penguins team has been banged up and injured through 3 coaches, multiple strength and conditioning coaches, or should I say it like Dusty Rhodes, strength and conditioning coach. It just is. The style the Penguins play, because they take a beating. They don't give a beating. They take a beating. Oh, you know what? I'm talking here, and you're still looking at Jeff Carter. Sorry about that. Oh, Jeff Carter's better looking than I am anyway. Yeah, there's really nothing to say about their injuries. It's a product of style. It's a product of the players that they have, generally smaller players who are absorbing the impact rather than giving the impact. And they do play a high-impact game. The high speed, block some shots. It is what it is. And I can't say that they can get bigger and still play this game, because there aren't many big players who can skate like the Penguins have to skate on their forecheck. Any news at all on rust? No, the Penguins canceled practice today, and that is why I am here and not there. Okay, so we're getting to about 45 minutes. This is the last call. If you want to ask actually about the Penguins lineup, you want to start talking about trade potentials, trade pieces, players to watch on the NHL trade market. I have been, and this is just us talking now, right? This is like the old radio sports talk show host in me, trying to figure out how the Penguins could get a hold of Jack Eichel. If Kevin Adams, who was a marketing sales guy 2 years ago, would be so enamored with Poulin, maybe so, right? I don't think I'd give away P.O. Joseph for Eichel. But if Poulin and Joseph and an NHLer got it done, maybe, right? You think they'd want Rust? Yeah, well, yeah, at least every time someone calls Buffalo, they act like that guy on Auto Trader who thinks he's got a 56 Corvette, or 62 Corvette rather. I was thinking 56 Thunderbird, 62 Corvette, and they're like, oh, well, that Corvair, it's rare. And you're like, oh, I did find a 62 Chrysler Newport between Franklin and Oil City. What is that? What is that road? Was it 8 or 322? Okay. It was like this old garage, and I'm like, what? So I pulled in, and I never did call. I'm like, I'm not haggling with somebody who put a beat up Chrysler Newport on the side of the road with a little sign for sale. But that's what the Buffalo Sabres remind me of. Ooh, somebody's interested. They jack up the listen. Until Eichel has his surgery, he's damaged goods. And until Eichel has his surgery and comes back, he's more damaged goods. I have no idea what Buffalo is thinking. We've had, let me count how many GMs we've spoken to over the summer and even as recently as a couple of weeks ago. Different folks in the National Hockey Now. I actually have to act as the editor-in-chief of everybody, so they have to tell me their sources so that I know that they're not making crap up. I mean, we've seen a bit of that in other media outlets of the last 6 months, right? As subscriptions get tougher and tougher to get, and people are fighting, and I mean, you know the stories. I don't have to go into them. We've seen some dubious stuff out there from some of the big national carriers, and so we've got a pretty strict deal at the Hockey Now Network. I'm going to say 4 GMs since June have all said the exact same thing to us. Oh, they're insane. Actually, one GM prefaced that with a big F before insane, talking about trying to, call. Yeah, I called Buffalo, and they're insane. So that was until Buffalo backs off a little bit. That situation is not, because you think P.O. Joseph and Sam Poulin and let's say Brian Rust or Jake Gensel. Let's hypothetically, let's just say that. And if that's not enough for Jack Ike, to hell with it, right? You're just not going to give up anything more. Unless they want to take, unless they like Jason Zucker. Like, you're like, oh, all right. Oh, that's a tough one. Darn it. You got me. Zucker has to. Zucker scored last night, right? He didn't get that goal. No. Rodriguez did, yeah. Zucker has to start playing a bit more consistently with those bursts. He can't fade in and out of the games. All right, last call. Can they capitalize on moving any of the tweener players? No, tweener players gets you tweener players and tweener picks. You're not going to really get anything. No one's going to call up for Anthony Angelo or even Juuso Riikola, obviously. Could have been had for nothing. So that should tell you, right? Any NHL team could have had Juuso Riikola for nothing. He makes, 1.15 million? Or no, 1.125, yeah. Thanks. And nobody bit. I mean, that's a few $100,000 over the minimum, $750, and no one was a taker there. So, no, unless they think that O'Connor has peaked, maybe you could convince somebody that he hasn't peaked and get a little something for him, like a depth defenseman if you need, or a depth center. I am concerned about the Penguins' development down in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, without any. I guess Zohorna is a center. Sullivan kind of politely corrected me that Zohorna plays center down in Wilkes-Barre. He plays wing up here. He's a much better NHL winger, or will be, than a center. But without a competent center for Poulin and Legaret, I think that stunts their development. So I'd like to see the Penguins find a couple tweener centers and send down to Wilkes-Barre. I know Chaput is kind of that guy. I don't think John Gruden is. Who? No. Hollander is not really. He's not going to be a top line center. He's going to dish and play well for them down there. No, Hollander and Poulin can probably have a quicksand skating competition, but other than that, will Czar be back on Saturday? Probably, maybe. We'll find out tomorrow morning at the morning skate. We'll also find out about Sidney Crosby tomorrow morning at the morning skate, so make sure you follow me on the tweet machine. Here, I'll put my little... Hey, by the way, make sure you follow us, because we're going to start doing a lot of these here on the National Hockey League channel. Make sure you follow. And follow me on Twitter. There you go. All right, everyone's bailing. I'm getting bored, too. Let's see, last question. I see Boyle as the prime option. If everyone is healthy, sending him down to Wilkes-Barre? I don't know. Would he agree to that? And I don't think he's good enough offensively to bring along Legaret and everybody. So, all right. Looks like the video is freezing up. It's time to bounce.